We did it. I didn't think we'd get there this quickly, but we've done it. This channel has hit 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody who has subscribed, anybody who might be thinking about subscribing. I had hopes for this channel when it first started, but it's exceeded my wildest expectations. And the fact that I get to sit here and do this for you guys today makes me really happy. Thank you very much. And right before we start here, obviously I like it when you stay to the end of the video every time, but please make sure you do so this time. Got some announcements regarding the channel. It was once we hit 3,000 subscribers that I thought 5,000 would be a nice number to do a Q&A. So, ready to get this started. Thank you all for the questions. If I somehow missed your question, hit me in the comments. I'll answer it there. If I did miss your question, I deeply apologize. I did try to get everybody's in there. With that said, let's get going. Right from the jump here, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. I'm going to do the best I can here. First question comes to us from Titty Sadik. Titty's Attic, maybe? Why would the logos be baseballs when you do football content? Obviously an excellent question, and what I've been asked before. The easy answer would be that it's a lot easier to make a logo out of round baseballs than it is oblong footballs. That's not truly the answer. What makes this a great first question is that I'll be able to answer it in deeper detail with the next couple of questions that come in. The short answer is that this was not always meant to be a football-only channel. The next two questions here are kind of one and the same. Banjo playing Bison 2275. What made you come up with the idea for C-Score? And Maniac Crowbar 74. What gave you the idea for C-Score? This is where the baseball comes in. C-Score was initially a tool or a metric for baseball players historically instead of football teams. And CCC, as in CCC Productions, has nothing to do with my name. It stands for contextual, comparative, and cumulative. Those were the kind of stats I was looking for baseball players. What they did in the context of their time, what they did in comparison to the other players in their league at the time, and cumulatively what they did over their career. It was doing that for a while, and believe me, there are a lot more historical baseball players than there are NFL teams. I thought it might be like a slightly easier path to hit up some football teams and see how this concept would work. And it worked great. And as the CCC project for baseball players continues, I've not really finalized it. Had some bumps in the road, and I'm about 2-3 years behind in updating it. It's worked wonderfully for the football teams, for NFL teams, and I thought I could introduce it into the YouTube channel that I had just started, and lo and behold, it worked out. So the idea for C-Score did not start with football. It started with baseball, and advanced metric types I thought could easily translate, and it did. I was happy that it did, and I'm happy that so many other people are happy that it did. Our next question comes from the Derp Hog 4. What inspired you to start this channel and come up with the idea of C-Score? So the idea of C-Score we've discussed, but what inspired me to start the channel? I like to talk, and I just wanted to put my voice out there to see if there'd be anybody who wanted to listen. And again, the idea of the channel at the beginning was that this was going to be a grab bag. It was going to be about whatever topic may have come to mind. If you actually look back at the channel's history, you're going to see a lot of videos there that have nothing to do with sports or the NFL. My first video is an almost 4.5 hour long diatribe entitled the Star Wars prequels, the 100 worst lines of dialogue. To this day, it remains my longest video. And yeah, it's what it says it is. It was the 100 worst lines of dialogue in the Star Wars prequels. And then the next video is my 100 favorite Breaking Bad characters. To this day, I believe my second most popular video is 12 forgotten sitcom classics. So the channel started off as whatever came to mind. I had some football videos in there as well. Funny thing is, I never really got to a baseball video, which is where it all started in the first place. I figured at some point something would catch on and become the niche of the channel, and I was happy with any such subject doing that. It's when I put out my first C-Score video. I hadn't even named it officially C-Score yet. It was the top 10 NFL playoff upsets. I did a follow-up video that got even more views, and I thought this could be it. and it started to focus just on NFL videos and the concept of C-score. And that's where the audience came. And like I said, I was happy with any aspect of the channel becoming the primary. There's always the opportunity to open up a new channel and talk about other topics should I desire. Right now, I'm focused on this one. But yeah, that's why I started a channel. I like to talk, and apparently enough people care to listen that I could keep going with it. So once again, I'm going to say this a lot during the video. Sorry if it gets a little grating, but thank you for willing to listen. Okay, our next question is kind of the last question in this vein. Schmoop14 asks, obvious question, motivation for coming up with C-score, and what's your math stats backgrounds? This is another one where I could answer the second half of the question. As far as math goes, and people in my family will vouch for this, I'm just kind of naturally good at it. As a kid, I learned math very quickly. I was able to do more advanced math for my age. I've never worked at it. It's not a skill I particularly earn. It's just something I'm good at. To this day, I can multiply numbers in my head pretty quickly. I can get percentages pretty quickly. It's something I enjoy up until calculus. Once I started hitting calculus, I got a little bored with it. As far as a statistics background goes, that was not offered in my high school. I did not have a statistics class I could take, and I never got to it in college. My math requirements were essentially filled, and I took a qualitative math, something like that, class just to hit a benchmark to graduate. So I never actually have taken a statistics class, but I have educated myself on the matter, and I do find a lot of the concepts fascinating. And the way I'm going to say this is going to sound wrong, but I do like the way numbers can be manipulated. Not to say I manipulate numbers, but the way numbers can be treated in the overall sense that consistent results, can be made. Something similar to the way John Boyce did his surrender index for his bad punting video, if you've ever seen that, where he, I think jokingly says he misuses algebra to make a point. I don't think I've misused algebra by any means, because again, I like to keep it consistent. C-score calculates the same for every team in every era for every season, but the fact that numbers can be made to dance little pretty dance is something I've always enjoyed. Our next question comes from the presidential sport. Give us the formula for C-score, because if not, give us the derivative of it. I'm not going to give you the formula for C-score, sorry. The next question here is Omar Khalid, 3366. What is the formula for C-score? I appreciate everybody who wants to know the formula. I think it's great. I can't give out the formula. Betty Crocker doesn't give out recipes. The Colonel doesn't give out his recipe for KFC. I don't think anybody to this day knows how Coca-Cola is made. I'm not saying I'm on the same level with any of these individuals or companies, but C-score is mine. It's mine, and if the results were off the wall crazy, I'd have been called out already, and I would have zero following. Not that I have a giant following, but I'd have zero. The results remain mostly consistent with what you might expect to be a good team, a great team, a terrible team, an average team. Some of them might be a little off the wall, and that's okay. We can have discussions about that when it happens, but it's proprietary. C-score is my formula. If I gave it away, then there'd be nothing special about it. So I got to maintain that little secrecy. That little secret sauce has to stay with me. But I do appreciate everybody who wants to know the exact formula. Nicholas Weaver, 2374, asks, will you just give us all the NFL C-scores, please? Yes, I will give you all the NFL C-scores. Stick around to the end of the video to find out how and when that's going to happen. Next up, we have Jaron Deddy, 8001. The question is it just you who runs the channel? Is it multiple people? Also, I love the channel. Helps fuel my random knowledge even more. Thank you so much for the compliment, and I'm glad you love the channel. I will admit that I say we a lot when referring to the channel. That's more of a term of art, or perhaps I'm considering the channel as a sentient being alongside me. The honest answer is, I do run the channel completely and utterly on my own. I do every last aspect of everything that's involved. I write scripts when I write scripts. Sometimes I just talk off the cuff. I collect videos, edit videos, whatever goes into the channel, I do it. And it's interesting for somebody who doesn't really have a background in content creation. I've just kind of figured it out on my own. Maybe that's why it's not always as neat and polished as someone else's. I certainly don't know how to use CGI or anything like that. You're not going to see the video production here that you see with Cinemassacre, for example, with James Rolfe being excellent, first of all, but also being a film student. He knows how to do all that stuff. Not up my alley. I just want to present content and hopefully give a creative visual sense of how that content looks. If I'm not doing that as well as you would hope, that might explain why, but yeah, this channel's all me. I would love to grow it enough to the point where I could get a little help. Uh, at the moment, that would not be feasible, of course, but who knows? Maybe one day this channel will be run by multiple people. The next two questions are going to run together. First, we got Baba Yaga C22V. Any surprising results to you once you completed the C scores for historical teams? And the next question, Isaac Pennington, 4295. What team had a C score that surprised you the most when you first started gathering the data for Super Bowl era C scores? So, because I got asked that question twice, I'll go ahead and answer two different teams. One that was surprisingly higher than I thought, one that was surprisingly lower. The higher one would be the 1991 Washington Redskins. Not that I didn't think they would be highly ranked. I thought they would. I thought they could easily be in the top 10. But they wound up being just a hair behind the 85 Bears, who I figured would be number one when this started, as the number one team of the entire era. They had an extra loss, so maybe if they went 15-1 instead of 14-2, they would have been the highest ranked team in all of C-Score. It's hard to say because one little change changes everything. But I would have guessed the '07 Patriots or perhaps the '68 Colts, even though they weren't Super Bowl champions. They got there. I thought those two teams would battle it out for number two or even possibly challenge for number one. So for the 91 Redskins to hit that spot as high as they did was a bit of a surprise. Again, I expected them to be great. I knew they were great, but the high stature they hit did surprise me. And on the low end of the stature, longtime viewers of the channel might be surprised when I say this, but I can't believe that this team almost hit a negative 10 in C-score. That would be the 2012 Indianapolis Colts. We like to take that team to task, so to speak, on this channel quite often. And we actually had to make a video around Christmas time a couple years ago saying only nice things about the 2012 Colts because it felt like it was a very one-sided relationship. But they were 11-5, made the playoffs. I knew they weren't really an above-average team, but I thought their C-score would be closer to 0, not closer to negative 10. They just really had every little last thing go their way during the regular season. If that team had won the Super Bowl, it would have been the most shocking 11-5 Super Bowl champion of all time, even though there have been teams with worse records to get it done in the end. But yep, those are my teams. The 91 Redskins and the 2012 Colts. Who would win a game if those two teams played? All right, next question comes from that one WWE fan guy, 2006. I missed the weekly C-Score video updates. Is there a possibility of those returning? Also, go Colts. I did not purposely put this question behind the Colts thing. That's a happy coincidence. I live in Indiana, by the way, so I've got a soft spot for the Colts. I missed the weekly C-Score video updates, too. I actually had fun doing them. Usually I'll make a video at my leisure and wind up posting it when the time is right. Those weekly C-Score updates needed to be done. At the time, I was making them morning of and posting them same day. So they were very minimal as far as editing goes, but there was a little bit that was getting done. Given that constraint, I was hoping for better viewership. I'm going to be completely honest here. The viewership did not hit the numbers I wanted to. So I've had viewership like that before, but when you're up against a deadline like that, it kind of drains the creative process a little bit. At least it did for me. So if I could get viewership back up for that, I would certainly love to get that going again. In the meantime, of course, I had the community posts. I understand it's not the same, but people wanted to know C-scores as the weeks went by, and I'm happy to provide that. So hopefully we get some growth in the channel, and come September, more likely October, because C-score doesn't really start counting until around week 6, we could start trying, hopefully, to get those videos back up. I appreciate the fact that you like them. I hope others did too. I just kind of wish there was a little bit more of you. Our next question comes from, I'm going to say this is pronounced Finder, Findrr. You're goated, by the way. Best low sub sports channel, anyway. How much time and research for stats did it take to make the Brady 2-hour video? Not factoring editing and production, just gathering topics and research. Thank you very much for the compliment. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I appreciate the compliment, but I'd rather not be a low sub channel. But while I'm here, I do have great subscribers, and you're not big in number at the moment, but you're awesome in totality. So, hey, I'm gonna thank you once again for all of that. In case you're not sure what he's referencing here, I did make a video entitled "Tom Brady's GOAT Status is a Fraud." And that title was very important to me because I never once called Tom Brady a fraud. There's people who have commented on that video who assume I hate Tom Brady. I don't. I don't hate any athlete. I don't have the time or energy to hate somebody I don't know. I don't have the time or energy to hate people I do know. Indifference is way more valuable to me than hatred. But I am a purveyor of truth, of what I consider to be truth. And I am of the mind, right from the beginning, that all quarterbacks, pretty much, are overrated. That they get way too much credit, and that it's a marketing thing for the NFL, because players are mostly anonymous behind their helmets, and quarterbacks are the driving force of recognition. And it's easy to boil down a football game. Football's difficult. A lot of casual fans don't know the ins and outs of football, to just boil it down to a quarterback battle. I understand. I'm just not going to join the herd, and I'm not going to get along with that. And it just so happens that Tom Brady is the number one avatar for all that, because he's won a lot of Super Bowls, and he is a good quarterback. Obviously, he's not a terrible quarterback by any means, but I had to make the video. I even make a point in the video. Let's say the New York Giants of the 80s somehow went on that kind of rampage, and all of a sudden Phil Simms would be considered the GOAT. And that, of course, sounds ridiculous to us, but it wouldn't in that timeline. So all that said, I wanted to get that out of the way. How much research did go into it? Honestly, not a lot. Mostly it was double-checking stuff. It's just stuff I kind of knew. And it's not a statistically heavy video, except a little bit for the 2020 season. I had to pull a lot of numbers for that. So that was the majority of the time. But I would say you're looking for, the question does ask how much time did it take? Anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, I would say, of dedicated research. Probably done 60% all at once, and then just double checking other stuff along the way. But thank you for your interest in that video. Hopefully everybody who watches that video understands the intent behind it. I do not hate Tom Brady. I don't. I just don't think he's the greatest of all time because he's been on the best teams of all time. That's all I'll say. Shorter answers. I'm going to try. Next up, we have Gabriel Odds 9081. Would it be possible to break offensive and defensive C-scores into rushing passing totals for both offense and defense in the future? Yeah, it totally would be. I'd have to dig into it a little bit. Give me a little time. But that's just another way to give C-Score a more expansive audience. Thank you for that suggestion. This is something that's going to happen. Next question comes to us from E-Dog the Big Dog. Killer screen name there. Is C-Score just a combination of points for and against with strength of schedule, or are there other factors? Another awesome question, and one I get from time to time. For the sake of visuals, I want to put up a team, their logo, their record, and their C-Score. To me, that was a little too barren. So I thought the best reference point would be to put where they ranked league-wide in points scored, points allowed, and in strength of schedule. At first, I thought about putting up exactly how many points they scored and how many points they allowed, which is something I've actually done in earlier videos. Once I got to that official kind of C-score page for every team was when that particular visual style came together. The points total and points scored, that didn't give you enough indication. Once upon a time, if you scored 450 points, you led the league. And nowadays, that maybe breaks the top 5. So I thought ranking would be the way to go. The ranking, these are all indicators. The rankings themselves especially don't mean much. The raw number in comparison to what was achieved during the year was what truly matters. So those are not the only factors, no. I thought they made for the best visual cues for what a team looks like. So points scored, points allowed, strength of schedule, they're hugely important. But a team's record matters to a degree. If one team has a resume that's exactly the same as another team's resume, but that first team has a better record, they're going to have a slightly better C-score. Because in the end of the day, wins and losses are all that matters as far as who gets to advance and who gets what draft pick and who wins the Super Bowl. Super Bowl's not decided on C-score, nor would I ever want it to be. But the record does matter to a degree. Game control matters. Not all 24-21 games are created equally. A team that leads 24-0 for most of the game and then concedes a whole bunch of touchdowns at the end to make it look closer than it was is going to get more credit than a team that was trailing the whole game and scores 2 last-second touchdowns to win a game 24-21. All that matters. Yardage matters. There's a lot of factors that go into C-score. Once again, our next two questions are kind of similar together. We have Anthony Rivera, 4735, longtime member of the channel. Would C-score work in other sports? And we have D Macho Mickey asking, can C-score be adapted to other major sports like basketball, baseball, etc.? Yeah, absolutely. Numbers are numbers. C-score can apply to anything. I could apply C-score to bowling or tennis if I had the right information. I'd actually love to do tennis one day. That's a whole other ball of wax. The reason why I would find it less effective is because football, especially the NFL, college football too, and college basketball would fit into this category. Schedules are imbalanced. You're not going to have a situation in Major League Baseball where one team has a drastically easier schedule than another. Everyone essentially is going to play the same schedule, especially if you're in the same division. And like a case we have this season where the New England Patriots had by far the easiest schedule, you're not going to find that in other sports. That's where C-score kind of gets an edge. So you can see who did what against whom. But it could absolutely work in other sports. I just don't think it would be as riveting. Which brings us actually to our next question. That's coming from Muskrat Mick perhaps, M-I-K. Would C-score work with college football? Yes, I figured out how to do it finally. I used to not know how to do it, and I've figured out a way to make it work. This announcement's already been made, but college football C-score is coming. Look for it in the springtime. Next question coming to us from Matthew Henninger Venata, 9914. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. As I asked before, will you ever get to doing C-score prior to the Super Bowl era? Stay tuned till the end of the video to find out. And in a somewhat related question, North Star Poke Shipper, 2148. Why do you limit yourself to the Super Bowl era specifically? Another good place to do a cutoff was the AFL era, 1960 and beyond. It certainly was. And my initial thought was to do this post-merger only. So starting from 1970 onward. But it felt absolutely wrong to leave out the first 4 years of the Super Bowl era. So the thought became 1960 or 1966. And because they were two separate leagues before 1970 and they did not have any interaction with each other until Super Bowl one, and there was no thought or agreement of a merger taking place, I didn't feel right putting those up together because AFL teams could potentially score higher than NFL teams when the talent level clearly wasn't there. And not being in the mood at the time to differentiate between the leagues like that, I just figured even though there was one game of comparison between the leagues at the end of the season, that would suffice enough to have the teams on equal footing no matter what league they were in, starting from 1966. So that's the reason I started from that point. But like the previous question asked, stay tuned to the video to find out how that might have changed. Next up here, we've got Paul Johnson, 4598. I hope that you have a great day. Well, thank you, and I hope that you have an awesome day. That's not the end of the video, folks. I just wanted to break up the monotony a little bit here. Thank you, Paul. Anybody else who may have wished me a good day or a good time or thanked me or complimented me, I thank you right back. The presidential sport is back, and the question is, who's going to win it all? Well, before the season I had an answer, and before the playoffs I had an answer, and neither of those are going to be right. So maybe now that there's only 2 teams left, I can get this right. I think the Seahawks are the best team in the NFL. The Seahawks have the highest C-score that they've earned in the NFL. And I think they're going to play well enough to win Super Bowl 60. So I'm going to pick the New England Patriots to win by exactly 3 points. This is the Patriot Way Part 2. It's a continuation of Bill Belichick, a Hall of Famer, by the way, no matter what they say. And Mike Vrabel was the guy to bring that back. And it's his first season in charge. And that's when they're getting it done. They're going to find a way. They're going to win by 3. And I think this time it's not going to be on a late field goal. It's going to be on a defensive stop. I think the Seahawks will get going on a drive and stall around midfield. Patriots will make some kind of interception or backbreaking sack, something like that. Exact score I don't got for you, but Patriots by 3. Okay, we've got real Mike Gordon. What's the 1968 Oilers C score? That's all you want to know? Okay. 6.618. We got Mike back, and now he wants to know the C score of the 2018 Buffalo Bills. Have I not covered that team at any point? That's kind of crazy. So, okay, let's take a look here. That's not very good. It's negative 16.476. All right, coming up next, we've got Williams Tricky. Have you ever thought of doing channel memberships or a Patreon or even selling merch? I know a lot of people would be willing to support you. It sounds like you would be willing to support, and for that, I absolutely thank you. And if there are other people who would be willing to take that line, I would thank you as well. Of course, I've thought about doing these things. I mean, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want these things associated with their channel? When I started the channel, of course, I did not make any money, and that was fine. It was basically a hobby. People do hobbies. They plant gardens. They collect stamps or whatnot, and it's not meant to make any money. Now the channel has made a little bit, and obviously not enough for me to stop and do it full time, which is fine. And getting a little bit more income from these 3 things would be great. My number one focus has always been creating good content, and that's always going to be the number one focus. But as long as these ideas of memberships and Patreon and whatever, if they don't take away from the content, then I would do them. Right at the moment, not being so familiar with how to get these things off the ground, I do honestly feel like it would hurt the channel's content. So the answer is yes, I've thought about it. Yes, I'm going to do it, but only when the time is right. Maybe around summertime, I've got some stuff planned, and if the channel's grown by then and I don't have to put out as many videos, and I could focus more on the quality of those videos and then spending the other time on worrying about this, then maybe. But if that doesn't happen, it's going to be fine too. But thank you so much for that question. Especially thank you for the motivation, knowing that there might be some people out there who could support all of that. Coming up next, we have Brian Reese or Royce. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. 256. 256 is 2 to the 8th power, by the way. What kind of music do you enjoy listening to? I could give you the basic answer and tell you that I like listening to good music. It doesn't matter the genre. And that is a true statement. But let's get a little deeper into that. I'm a rock guy. I like rock music, but I like my adult contemporary as well. I'll tell you actually, my big 3 bands slash artists are Def Leppard. Def Leppard's number 1 forever, my favorite band. I don't care what you think about that. If you think that's lame, if you think that's awesome, I'm good with you either way. They're not the best band of all time, but they're my personal favorite. They have been for 4 decades. Since I was very young. So Def Leppard, Bruce Springsteen, and Metallica. Those are my big 3. Then I got my second tier of absolute greatness. It's going to be a little bit more of a mishmash here. There's 4 bands and artists here. We've got Elton John, Lionel Richie, Fleetwood Mac, and Nightwish. I don't know if you've heard of Nightwish. If you've heard of Nightwish from the jump right here, then you're awesome. But they're part of a genre of rock known as symphonic metal. And I'm going to get a few views on this channel, so let's put symphonic metal out there. Bands like Nightwish, Lacuna Coil, if they qualify, some people don't qualify them, Within Temptation, The Lane, Epica. These are bands generally from Europe, and they play symphonic metal. That's kind of what it sounds like. It's metal, it's hard rock, but it's got elements of symphonies, of violins and other such instruments. And it's usually a female lead singer with a higher registered voice and a soprano range. It sounds like a mess, but it's really, really good. Go check out Nightwish if that sounds interesting to you. They're all over YouTube. They're not so underground that you can't find them. They're just not big in the United States. And if I have European viewers who know about all these bands, then you got some camaraderie here in the States. Not all of us just listen to Justin Bieber, I think you say, and that type. I don't listen to Justin Bieber. I've heard of him though, unfortunately. We got Marcus O. Valdez. What other sports do you or have you followed, and if so, what were your teams? I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. All of my favorite teams reside in that area, except in the NFL. I decided as a young child I did not want to be a Cowboys fan. I just made that decision. And I saw Ronnie Lott knocking the crap out of somebody one day as a little kid. And I'm like, that's my team. I want to follow Ronnie Lott's team. And most people become Niner fans through other players. I'm a defensive guy even back then. So Ronnie Lott made me a 49er fan. But I am a Texas Rangers fan in baseball. Not an NBA fan, but gun to my head, asked me to name a team. I'd pick the Mavericks. As far as hockey goes in the NHL, I like hockey. I don't watch it that much, but I like it. And live hockey is awesome. I left Texas before the Stars arrived there, so I have no connection to them. So, still gun to my head, I'd probably pick the Stars as my favorite NHL team. And in college, all my favorite teams are TCU in every sport. Not the University of Texas. Screw those guys, man. And I'm a big Premier League fan in soccer. And I got family from Manchester United as a young child. I was introduced to Manchester United before they became the Goliath they are today. So I was there in the early days when it wasn't so great. I was there for all the greatness, and I'm here now for the not so great over the past decade or so. Also, as I mentioned, I do love tennis. I kind of stopped watching it for a while, not for any particular reason, just one of those life happens thing. And I've re-ingratiated myself with the sport, and I'm so happy I've done so. This new crop of players is pretty darned awesome. But growing up, my favorite male tennis players were always Andre Agassi and Michael Chang. I just loved Michael Chang's playing style. I know he didn't win a whole lot, especially on the Grand Slams. He won a couple, but he was a joy for me to watch. And I never had a favorite female tennis player. Obviously, I admired the great ones like Steffi Graf and Monica Seles, Martina Hingis, the Williams sisters. Plenty I'm not mentioning by name. There's been a lot, which has actually increased my enjoyment of watching women's tennis because I can stay neutral for just about any match. Here we've got Biscuits, 7422. What is the single strongest positive sports watching memory from your childhood? If the latter doesn't take too long to answer, what is your strongest negative memory from that time period as well? I've got some guesses given you're a 49ers fan, and you've hinted at strong feelings regarding a certain NFC Championship game loss, but I'm curious where you'll go with that topic. I will never, on this channel, cover the NFC Championship game that kicked off the 1990s decade. That hurt me as a child too much for me to want to revisit now. So that's clearly my most negative. I can't even tell you the game or anything about it. Just, yeah, that's the one. That's the negative one. The positive one just happened a couple years earlier when the 49ers beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl because that was a close game and we had to win it with less than a second left. And just hearing the call of that game is enough to give me goosebumps. But I'm also going to give you a cheating answer here. That my number one sports memory from childhood was when the Texas Rangers won the World Series in 2023. I was not a child in 2023, but the 8-year-old version of me was watching them win that World Series. So I'm going to count that as my favorite sports childhood memory. Here we've got Nick Cage, 6375. What is the best NFL game you saw in person? So from a selfish standpoint, 1994, the 49ers hosted the Atlanta Falcons. I was living in San Jose at the time, so I was at that game. It was right around my birthday, and the 49ers won that game 50-14. That was not a high-quality game that people are going to remember. It's also not the same game where Andre Rison and Deion Sanders had their little fight. That happened in Atlanta. But, yeah, seeing the Niners steamroll somebody else that was a division rival and in a season that we won the Super Bowl, that was pretty neat. So, but to the point of your question, I went to the 49ers-Bengals game in 2021, where the Niners blew a lead and won in overtime, 26-23, in a season that the Bengals wound up going to the Super Bowl. And also in the 2006 season, the year the Chicago Bears went to the Super Bowl, I was visiting family up in Chicago and got to see a Bears Buccaneers game. The Bears had a massive lead, and we almost left the stadium. I did not want to go, but I was also being treated to the game, so I was in no position to say no, let's stay. But the Bucks actually made a furious comeback and sent the game into OT, which the Bears won on a field goal by Robbie Gould, which I couldn't see. I couldn't see the ball go through the uprights because everybody was in front of me, and I will admit to not being of the tall variety. So those two games, the Bears Buccaneers and the 49ers Bengals, are my picks. If, objectively, I'd have to say the Bears game, but I would pick the Niner game just because I'm a Niner fan. But my favorite was that Niners Falcons game from 1994. Those were the questions. I thank you all so much for submitting those. I hope I answered them to your satisfaction. Any follow-ups, if you feel like you missed the Q&A, feel free to drop a comment. I'll be happy to hopefully get around to answering those as well. So we've got our announcements that we want to make, and the first one is one we've already made. And this past season's college football debate, I really wanted to dive into that. I hated not really having anything beyond just my opinion. So I doubled down on my efforts to figure out how to make C-score work in college football, and I've done it. I've done it. I figured out how to do it. So college football C-score is coming. And because that took place, I decided to go ahead and tackle the pre-Super Bowl era. All NFL history C-score is coming. Every single NFL team that ever existed, even if they only played one game, is going to have a C-score. Be on the lookout for that. I'll be announcing that more as it gets closer. The other thing I want to discuss is the next series we're going to be doing on this channel. Starting February, let me get this date right. I want to get it exactly right here. Starting February 20th, we're going to debut a 6-part series. It's going to be a video released every 2 weeks, except the last video is going to be released 3 weeks later. So that's going to give us a scheduled end date of May 8th. What we're going to be doing is resimulating every season of the Super Bowl era. Not imperialism. We're doing the entire season. And we're going to do them 10 at a time and see who wins the Super Bowl when we do it all over again. At the end of each video, this is going to be, again, 10 years at a time, we're going to reveal every team's C-score that they achieved during the simulation, but also every C-score they achieved in real life. So, by May 8th, or on May 8th, the C-score for every NFL team of the Super Bowl era will be revealed. So please make sure you check out that series. It's going to be fun. It's not going to be short. Each video is going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours long, but you're getting 10 years worth of action in each video as well. My goal is at the end to have a website, a C-score website, where you could go visit and check out any NFL team and get their relevant numbers and, of course, their C-score, their offensive and defensive C-score, and now their rushing and passing offensive and defensive C-scores. And maybe even a separate special team C-score. I don't know if I'll be able to get that done, but if I can, I will. That's going to do it for us here today. I hope I didn't waste too much of your time. Thank you so much for the 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you so much for submitting questions. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, ding that bell icon, get notified when we release videos. Like and share this one if it so moves you. And hopefully we've got a lot more to go. Looking forward to future milestones. 5,000 is great. 10,000, 25,000. Dare I dream bigger. So once again, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. And until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.